Whoa, 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 whoa.
Wait, what's the problem?
This isn't this is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Boris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza and the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
He had the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah. Big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper off the front rim, and in.
I guess we should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you got to have some Islanders.
Yeah, no, they didn't have a YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites. Hello and welcome to Polar Opposites Podcast, coming to you live on YouTube and on Twitter. You can also find us all over wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
is Craig Moffitt.
And Craig.
Maddie, I got the mic working finally. So now it sounds like I bought a Yeti.
It's glorious. So we have Craig's mic working. We have all 5 winter sports teams in the playoffs in New York.
Life is good to be a New Yorker right now, I must admit.
Doing all right. We'll talk about the Jets later. We got all sorts of stuff. Everything's going well. You can follow us on Twitter at Polar Oppo, on Instagram at Polar Oppo Pod. That's also where you're going to get us on YouTube at Polar Oppo Pod. Check us out. So Craig, we've got a lot going on this week.
A little tough to keep up with all the sports, to be really honest.
It is. The hockey starts Tuesday. Oh, no, when do the Islanders play? Monday?
Islanders tomorrow, Rangers Tuesday.
Rangers and Devils Tuesday.
By the way, this weekend coming up is going to be huge at Madison Square Garden. Holy shit. It's like Knicks Friday, Rangers Saturday, Knicks Sunday, I think. Is it Knicks Sunday? Yeah. Okay. Holy. They're going to set a new record for like revenue for a weekend because
since
I was there last night for a concert. And first of all, the prices are exorbitant. For a freaking tall boy, it was $17, right? But I just didn't care.
Labatt's Blue or some shit, right?
No, it was they have a lot of different stuff. So,
wait, who did you see?
Oh, I took my wife to see Reba McEntire.
There you go.
And it was actually a good show. She's a fan. She's a big fan, and I promised I would take her as part of a Christmas gift back in December, and she was playing last night.
All right.
But Stella was $17, and then and the thing is, my wife's not really a big drinker, so as I was about to pay the guy, she goes, "Hold it, wait a minute." She goes, and she got she likes White Claw. White Claw is actually her thing. And so we got a White Claw because I wasn't expecting her to get anything because she never, like I said, she never really drinks. And he goes, and it was funny though, because he waited, the guy behind the usher waited until the card went through and then he poured the beers. So it was $34. And then he just waited and my wife goes, I think that was pretty cool. You did that because you waited until the card went through and then you poured it because it would have sucked if you poured it and the card was declined. So hat tip to the usher at Madison Square Garden last night for the show.
All right. So Craig saw Reba. Sounds exciting. That at the Garden won't be the most exciting that happens this week. We got, of course,
next weekend is going to be insanity.
Crazy. This is the first time since 94. Since 94, all 5 teams are in the playoffs. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get to the NBA first. We'll start there.
I'm just going to start talking. I'm just going to, I think I have to fix something really quickly on my mic. All right.
So we're going to start with the NBA. And listen, we'll get to the Nets in a second. We're going to start with the Knicks. The first day of the playoffs, not a lot. There were 2 good games and 2 games. I expect the Heat to lose pretty easily 4 or 5. I expect the Hawks to lose in 4 or 5. And I expect the Nets to lose 5 or 6. I think
I'm thinking more 5. I just don't know if they can match up right now with the Sixers, but I think that they're doing I think they're. I would say 5, maybe 6. So yeah, maybe 6. I think they get one at Barclays. I think they get at least one at Barclays.
Right, but out of the 3 teams I'm talking about, I think the Nets have the best shot of taking it to 6 or 7. I think the Heat are done in 5. I think the Hawks might be done in 4 at this point with the way they played yesterday. It's terrible.
And to be honest, Maddie, man, I don't love the Sixers at all. Like they're just not a team that to me seems like a championship team.
It's a lot wrapped up in Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. I mean, you can do that if you want. It's a lot wrapped up in Embiid and
this is it. I think in a way, I think this has to be their year because there's a decent chance that Harden takes off next year.
Oh, decent chance. He's going back to Houston.
That's been the long rumor now for a while. And I mean, if the Sixers don't win this year, I think they're going to take a major step back next year.
So those games weren't great, and we'll get to the Hawks later in the show. We'll get to some more residual NBA stuff later in the show when we do closing time. But I want to talk real quick about the Knicks because I think the Knicks, that game was sort of how the Knicks, if they make a run in the playoffs, which I think their run in the playoffs will be the next round, they'll get eliminated in the next round. You know what I mean? Like if they win this round, they're not winning the next round. But
so they basically get the Bucks in the next round, right? I mean, unless something happens.
And unless Giannis and everyone else just suddenly can't play basketball anymore or gets hurt, they're not winning that series. But the way that they can stay in these series is with their second team, because their second team is better than pretty much not every other teams, but most teams' second unit. And so they don't have to play Randall and Brunson and their starting unit more minutes in the playoffs like other teams do, right? If you look at the minutes, like Jaylen Brown, all those guys' minutes go up in the postseason because the rotations become less. The Knicks don't necessarily have to do that. And if you look at the bench scoring from the game last night, or the other night, it was crazy. I think the Cavalier bench had 8 points or something like that. And the Knicks bench had 40. It was just a crazy, crazy game. And one more thing real quick. They sort of did this, but this is something I've never understood, Craig, and see if you follow me here. It's what pissed me off when the Knicks used to play Michael Jordan all the time and lose, is that they would do dumb shit like double Michael Jordan. Why? Michael Jordan's going to get his points. Donovan Mitchell. Now, I'm not comparing Donovan Mitchell to Michael Jordan. That's not what I'm doing. But Donovan Mitchell's going to get his points, whether you double him or not, right? He's going to get 30 to 50 points in there, whether you double him or not. The problem is that if you double him and he gets his 30 to 50 points, there's somebody on that's open that's going to get their points too.
Yeah.
So just play Mitchell one-on-one. Let him get his 40 points. Who cares?
They have their scorers. They have him. They have Darius Garland. They have Jared Allen.
If you let him get his points and you cover everybody else single up and make it harder for the rest of the team, it's going to be harder for them to win. It really.
Listen, we knew. You and I talked about it, I think a week or two ago. The Knicks are going to be a tough out. I think we can both agree on that. They're going to be a very tough out right now. Randall had a great game last night. Brunson was fine. Brunson was Brunson. I mean, he was good. You and I have also talked about the fact that we always believe the Cavs were a soft 4. That if the Knicks got the Cavs, the Knicks could probably take them. And, now where it goes from there, we don't know. It's just game 1. When is game 2? Tuesday or tomorrow?
Tuesday.
Okay. This is a must win for Cleveland on Tuesday. You don't want to go into Madison Square Garden down 2-0. You just don't. And, the Knicks have a very deep roster. We've already mentioned that. They have a very deep bench. The Josh Hart trade has been terrific for them.
It's been one of the best trades of the NBA trade deadline.
But I will say one thing, okay? I don't like the Knicks, right?
Really?
But some shit that they do is funny. And I will tip my hat to Josh Hart on this one. So I don't know if you saw the other day.
Post.
What's that?
The IG post?
It was either IG or Twitter. I don't know which one it was. And Donovan Mitchell said oh, what is he? I think he wrote game day or some shit like that. And Josh Hart just wrote F you. I thought that was fun. I thought that was hilarious.
I mean, they played with each other, didn't they? Weren't they on the Jazz together?
I don't think so. Because I
thought he was. I don't know. I can't keep up with it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they played together, but it was. I mean, I hope it wasn't jest, but who knows?
Yeah, no, it definitely was.
It was just it made me laugh. Even I have to admit, it made me laugh. But all season long, I've been very impressed with the Knicks. I've been impressed with the way they've bought into Thibodeau's system. I've been impressed with the way Jalen Brunson has really taken that leadership role in New York, which I didn't expect personally. And Julius Randle has had another step to his game, and he's really become a very lethal 1-2 with Brunson.
I gotta be honest with you, Craig. I don't know if anybody but Jalen Brunson thought that he was going to be this. Like people,
no,
you remember?
No Knick fan could have ever. I don't think even Knick fans believe
contract.
Yeah,
Knick that's fans, not even the max, and people killed it.
You know why people killed the Brunson contract was because he was second fiddle to Luka in Dallas.
Right.
That's what it was. Now, no Knick fan, nobody expected Brunson to be this good, though.
No.
I mean, he has just been that good, but more importantly, he's embraced it. And that's the one thing you really want to see from a Knicks fan perspective. It was like, remember when they signed Amari Stoudemire?
Yeah.
And Amari Stoudemire just wanted to be a Knick, and he loved being in New York, and he loved playing in New York, and he gave you his all every game.
Until
like, you never doubted. What's that?
Until he punched the fire hydrant.
Yeah. But even then, he gave you his all, right? Because that's what
really hard.
Now, that's what a drunk New Yorker would do. So Amari's just playing the role, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I'm not saying he was drunk when he did it, but you love to see the fact that a guy like Jalen Brunson comes here and he embraces that leadership role, and he's taken it on his own to the point where he has literally made the Knicks dangerous.
Yeah.
He's made the Knicks dangerous. And like you just said, you don't think anybody, well, maybe not anybody else. Let me rephrase that. No one expected Jalen Brunson to be that good. And I'm not entirely sure that anybody else would be as good as Jalen Brunson.
I mean, I'm sure there are guys, but out of the guys that they would have signed,
guys within reason of getting, I guess. Yeah. Let me rephrase that. Guys within reason of getting,
especially at that contract, which is not a max deal, by the way. Jalen Brunson did not sign a max contract. Everybody,
he did Julius Randle.
He did Julius Randle. The Knicks have nobody under max contracts right now. They don't. RJ Barrett didn't sign a max extension either.
So what's funny is like, okay, it's not to rip the Knicks fan because I love ripping.
Oh no, you can rip the Knicks fan. They're idiots. They're idiots.
I don't want to hear a Knicks fan.
For that
this is exactly okay. Maybe I don't hate the Knicks organization as much as I just don't like the fan base, because the fan base is just like ridiculous sometimes. And the first thing they do is, this is ready. I was scrolling through the Twitter feed the other day looking for stuff to like post and like, or just to like retweet and like maybe make a comment about. And it was like, the first thing that comes to my mind is some guy on some random sports media page writes, boy, the Knicks really dodged a bullet not getting Donovan Mitchell. And I just sat there and I'm like, you see what I mean? Like, you see what I mean about this? Because all I remember all summer before Donovan Mitchell got traded to the Cavs was how we got to get him. We got to get Donovan Mitchell. Stephen A. Smith, like, basically screaming it from the rooftops and everything. It's like, it's okay for Donovan Mitchell to have a really good season in Cleveland and Jalen Brunson to have a really good season with the Knicks. But I don't understand why you're going to sit there and tell me that now you're trying to act like you don't want Donovan Mitchell, or you didn't need Donovan Mitchell because everything is kind of breaking right for you in the spot you're in.
The only way to me that I consider it dodging a bullet, and I don't even consider it that, but the only way I would even look at that is if you're talking about the players I would have had to have given up and the draft capital I would have had to given up, right? Because the Knicks could have gotten both Brunson and
easily.
They could have done both.
They have like 100. They have like 8 draft picks, and
but the problem is then they wouldn't have had what has made this team very good all year, which is their depth. They would have gotten rid of Grimes. They would have had to get rid of Quickly. They would have had to get rid of some of the other guys as well. So to me, the only reason, and again, I don't even consider it a reason because I'd rather have Donovan Mitchell, but you just look at the depth and you say that like Emmanuel Quickly has grown as a player this year. Like, the guy's going to get 6 man of the year votes. Like, he really is. He's been excellent. And when Brunson was out, he was even better. He was scoring 40 a night. Like, he was really doing well, and he still is.
But I'm almost inclined to say, too, that right now, I mean, you can disagree if you want, okay, and that's fine. The way the Knicks are built, the way the contracts are built right now, I mean, do you think there's a missing piece at this point?
Yes, they need a 1. Brunson is a 2 and Randle is a 3 at best. And I don't mean the positions on the floor. I'm talking about pecking order.
So who is that guy? Like, if you think, like, just give me a name maybe off the top of your head.
Luka. Like I don't know, like, but somebody like that, right? You're looking for like a Jimmy Butler, right? Like a Luka Doncic, a LeBron. Like, I'm not LeBron, is not coming here, but you know what I mean? Like somebody like an alpha, like the number one guy, a guy who, you know, like right now with last second shot, it's probably Brunson or it's probably Randall, but like they don't have a guy even like Mitchell, you know. And I'm less inclined to put Mitchell in the same categories those other guys, because
Right.
those other guys play defense a little bit more, but I just think that they're missing that guy. And like, if in most games that the Knicks play, Brunson and Randall, who are their two best players, are going to be third and fourth best player on the court. Now,
Yeah.
after that, a lot of the players are Knicks, right? Because you have a lot more depth on the Knicks than you do on most of these other teams. But number one and number two are most likely going to be on the other team. And after a while, that hurts you in the NBA. It's one of the only leagues where if you don't have those two guys, it's very rare you're winning. Very rare.
Game 2 is on Tuesday. Nets suffered a game 1 loss. They lost by 20. There was a like 120 to 101 or some shit.
Yeah,
like
that was a tough one.
You know, look, I'm proud of what the Nets were able to accomplish after all the bullshit that they had to deal with this year. So, you know, my expectations for them, to be brutally honest, are fairly low, just because I think it's 4 new guys in the starting lineup. And, you know, but if there's anything that's emerged, there's just the only thing I'm going to say, and whether I don't know if it's going to make it break the series or maybe would have changed little things, is I think Jacques Vaughn has to find a way to get Cam Thomas on the court because he can score. That's what worries me right now, because you're getting the scoring from Mikal Bridges. You're getting the scoring from Cam Johnson.
Right.
Dorian really hasn't been that great since he got here. And Spencer Dinwiddie's been very, very hit or miss. But Claxton I love in the middle, but I also think they need a true center.
Right.
I think they need a true center next year. Like, I think it's just a must. I don't know why Cam Thomas is only playing like 6 minutes a game, especially when he puts up 40 spots a few times after the trade took place, when they traded Durant and they traded Kyrie.
It's amazing, right? Like, how many guys put up a bunch of 40 spots and all of a sudden they're like sitting on the bench. But look, here's the thing about the Nets that you have to like if you're a Net fan. And if you're a real Net fan, not just a KD and Kyrie Net fan, but like an actual Net fan like Craig is, who's been a Net fan for his entire life.
Wow.
You know,
The funny thing is, I used to be a Knicks fan years ago. And then, like, I lost touch with basketball after a while. Like, and even today, like, I can't sit through a basketball game because it's just fouls and just bullshit. And it's just, you know what it is? And when it's a brick party, like when people are shooting threes, and it's tough to watch, man. It's really tough.
That was what it was like watching the NCAA tournament this year. But
I know.
If you're a Nets fan, I'm going to say this is going to sound dumb, and please just hear me out. I think the Nets are in a really good spot because I think their GM is built for what he's about to do. I think the GM for the Nets is exceptionally good. And we saw it before they went and got Katie and Kyrie, that he was building something with like guys he found off the street, right? When he found Dinwiddie and he found all those guys, and like they made it to the playoffs and took the Sixers in that series to I think it was a 6th or 7th game. And like they looked like they were on the up. And then of course they got Katie, Kyrie, and had to blow it all up. But the Nets GM is very good, very, 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 very good, because he had to do it. Remember those first couple of years, they didn't have any picks because they had traded all for the Garnett deal and all those guys. So he was like finding these guys off the scrap heap who ended up being really, really good. So I think the Nets are actually in a really.
I think the crazy thing is too, this year, I think he did it a lot more with guys like Yuta Watanabe, Edward Sumner, David Duke Jr. These are guys that are just rounding out the bench, but they're decent players.
Yeah.
And I think now being back in the draft, I think is a great thing for them. Now, I don't know what it's going to lead to. I don't know if I want another superstar. Like, I just don't know if I want to go down that road again, because Mark's strength, I think, is through the draft. And he's definitely found some good players over the years while he's been the general manager of this team, that I don't want to give up 4 first-round picks to get DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine. You know, like, I don't want that shit. I like where this team is going, and I just want them to get there. And in the East right now, the fact is they were a 6, and that had a lot to do with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in the beginning of the year. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that happened, but I love the way this team is being built right now. I love Mikal Bridges, who's come on as a major scorer now, and hopefully next year it becomes the same thing. I really am a big fan of Cam Johnson. I like Dinwiddie's game a lot. Dorian Finney-Smith, I like. I just think he's got to get better. Like, I don't know, something's off with him. Like, he just hasn't really played like good basketball. Their roster they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of wings though, so they're gonna have to figure out how to break that up in the off season. And then, I think they're going to. I don't think the turnaround is going to be as long as everybody thinks it might be.
No, definitely not. Especially because a lot
here's
of
the goal:
East are terrible.
Stay out of the fucking lottery.
Yeah.
That's what I want you to do. If you can do that, then you have succeeded as far as I'm concerned.
And look, they should be able to do that. And, going forward. And I do think your GM is built to build the team.
I love Marks. I'm a big Marks fan.
Random draft picks and whatnot like that. So going forward, it looks like the Knicks and Nets are on the up at least. Here's the problem, though. In order to win, you need to have at least one guy, and neither team has that guy right now. So we'll see what happens going forward. Maybe somebody gets lucky in the draft. I'm really we're going to get to it later, but I'm so pissed off about that fucking Mavericks thing. I'm so agitated about it, but we're going to get to that later. Let's move on to baseball, shall we? Because we got a little MLB going on.
We need salty Matty for in case you missed it.
I'm so cranky. Like, are you kidding me?
It's a problem. When you have a young son, I mean,
it's so ridiculous.
I've been there.
Right, let's talk about baseball, shall we? Mets and Yankees. Mets are on the West Coast right now playing Oakland. Yankees won today. Garrett Cole complete game, which is super random in today's day and age. I think the game took about 2 hours and 30 minutes. It was fantastic. You got to love these shortened games. It's wonderful shit.
It's funny, like watching the umpires come out when there's like a pitch clock violation. It makes me laugh. Like, it really does. Because it's just like, well, is it on the batter? Is it on the pitcher? Like I was confused for a little bit, but it's definitely been entertaining. It's definitely
working. It's definitely working too, because you're seeing an uptick in runs. You're seeing an uptick in hits, not just home runs, but actual hits. You're seeing a massive uptick in stolen bases. You're seeing a lot of the game the way it was played in the 70s, 80s, and 90s before we got into the slog that was the last, say, 10, 15 years of just
our
like
games are like 3 hours and 15 minutes long. It was like
it
was longer than The Godfather.
And it's 1-0 game that's 3 hours long
on a bases loaded walk.
Oh, it's brutal. So listen, look, the Yankees are doing fine. They're both teams are doing fine, but you can't account for a team starting 12-1 or whatever the hell it was. You know what I mean? Like, so you got to wait for the Rays to come back down to earth a little. Now they played a very soft first 12 games, and then they lost. I think it was 2 out of 3 to the Jays when they went up there. But look, just keep playing, man. Stan went on the IL today, so that's his one of 2 stints on the IL per year. It's usually about a month in. He goes on the IL, and then we go from there. Mets called up Batty. Is that Batty? Beatty. Okay.
Beatty.
They called up Beatty because he was.
Yeah, that was like, you got to call him.
Like 700.
You got to call him. I was like,
what are you doing?
Listen, man, I'll be honest. Billy Epler was getting ripped, and rightfully so.
Yeah, the guy was hitting made it out. He had not made it out in like 3 weeks. It was crazy.
It's like somebody had a tweet that was really good the other day. It was like, it's borderline criminal for Billy Epler to show all this love to Eduardo Escobar while Beatty's on like hitting 700 in AAA.
It's crazy. It was crazy.
It was funny. Like, listen, with regard to the Yankees, you already know their offense is going to be very good. And one guy that's definitely stepped up his games to start early this season has been Gleyber Torres. Normally he's been hitting around the 250, 260, and now all of a sudden he's definitely hitting over 300. He's getting on base. He's playing good baseball overall.
Yeah.
Cole getting a complete game today was massive because their rotation has definitely, with the injuries, Rodon had a setback last week. So with back stiffness, so now I don't know if that pushes him back further or they're just doing another session. I'm not really sure how it is.
They're going to do another session. Here's my thing. As long as it's not related to the original injury,
right,
I'm okay. Like, back stiffness is like, the guy probably hasn't been allowed to work out too much. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden he goes and throws, you get a little back stiffness, sit him down for a couple of days, get back up and go. Look, it's simple for the Yankees. Tread water until you get all your pitchers back. And then with the offense and the starting pitching, then you can move some of the guys from the starter into the bullpen. Your bullpen gets stronger, that sort of thing, and you go from there. The one thing I want to really talk about real quick is, because like I have a 7-month-old kid, I don't get to watch a lot of other baseball games. You know what I mean? Like I get to watch the Yankees, and I barely get to watch the Yankees at this point, but I get to watch the Yankees. And I've noticed, and like I listen to a lot of different podcasts, and people like were talking about the World Baseball Classic and talking about how much fun it was that the players were celebrating and like showboating and doing all that stuff. And they're like, Major League Baseball doesn't do that crap. And I'm like, are you guys watching the same Major League Baseball I am? Because the other night in the Yankees-Indians game, there was a guy in the 7th inning who struck somebody out to get out of a jam for the Indians. And he celebrated like it was Game 7 of the World Series. Like it was crazy. He's like pumping his chest.
I might be able to trump that one. So the other day I was watching Rays highlights on their winning streak. I can't remember what team they played. I think it was against Oakland.
Right.
And it was one of the 11-0 games that they won back to back.
Right.
And Oakland brought in a position player to be a pitcher, which they've done like 5 times this year because they've gotten just destroyed in like half the games that they played.
Yeah.
And Randy Arozarena hits a home run off a freaking position player.
Yeah.
Trots around the bases, stops at home plate, and poses. Poses.
See, here's the thing, though. I don't have a problem with it. I
do.
I don't care. I honestly don't care. But here's my thing. It's like Naylor, the guy for the Indians. Remember last year when he did the baby as he's running around the bases?
Yeah.
He was doing like the baby, and then he did, he's too small. Like you better back that shit up, man, because like I don't care. Like, you pump your fist and you get a guy out or whatever. That's one thing. But some of these celebrations just seem like, I don't want to say forced, but they seem like people are doing it to like sort of maybe like just get on ESPN or something like that. You know what I mean? And
but it's like you see it every time Byron Buxton hits a home run. He's got pumping his chest around first base. It's 1-0. It's 1-0 at the top of the first inning.
I mean, listen.
The other day, a week ago, Alex Verdugo was like, Alex Verdugo does it like every other time now he gets on base. Like it's like enough. Like the celebrations, like even the other day I was watching the Marlins game and Jazz Chisholm, I think, homered. I think it was against the Mets, actually. I think it was a Sunday game against the Mets. And I think he homered. And of course, like he gets to home plate, like he just runs around the base and it gets to home plate. He's got to do the trot like that. Like,
listen, and again, I'm with it, but like all at the same time, I better not see anybody from the teams that have those people on it. You better not be throwing at guys if they celebrate against you. Like that's that crap. But
like, I'm not a fan of like the over celebration, because you know what happens a lot of times? These guys are admiring home runs and it goes off the wall.
Yeah, well, there.
It's like Major League 2 when Willie Mays Hayes is like homering and like he thinks he's got it and the guy catches it at the freaking warning track, but meanwhile he could have had a double. It's like those are the types of things that frustrate me. I don't like that shit because they're admiring their home runs and everybody does it. And I would kill the Mets players too if they did it, because I've seen it and it annoys the shit out of me too when the Mets do it. I hate the showboating.
This was last year. We were watching Yankees Red Sox game last year, and Alex Verdugo came up to the plate, and my girlfriend just looked at me. She goes, "Who's that guy?" I'm like, "Alex Verdugo." She goes, "He looks like a douche." I was like, "You're like correct, Adam. You are correct.
Yep.
He doesn't just look like a douche. He is a douchewag."
Yeah. It really is though. Like, and I don't know if it's just a way to get excited about the season. I don't know if it's the way to like make it interesting in baseball, but it's like, come on, man. It's like it's 1-0 in the first inning. You guys are already pumping your chest after a freaking home run.
I just don't know how you keep up that enthusiasm for 162 games, right? Like, I just don't know.
It's not easy. I mean, thank God with the ebbs and flows of the season.
But listen, Yankees and Mets, they're good, right? Neither team started out poorly. Both teams started out well. They're winning series. That's all you can ask.
A few points on them. Just a quick few things for me for the Mets. The hitting has been very hot and cold. Obviously against Oakland this weekend, they're just destroying the baseball because Oakland is just beyond terrible.
Right.
But the San Diego series, I think they were struggling with their hitting, and that worries me a little bit. It's very hot and it's just been very up and down. The rotation as a whole hasn't been bad. Senga's actually been pretty decent since he started. Carrasco, I think there's something off with him because he hit 3 guys yesterday. He hit 3 guys.
Listen, sometimes you got to hit some folks.
I know. It's like whether intentional or not, still hit 3 guys. And it's almost like, and I hate to use Major League as an example, it's like when Vaughn gives up the grand slam and Lou Brown goes, "Let's see how he recovers from this one." He hits the guy square in the back, like, right? It was like, and he goes, interesting, right? So Carrasco had a decent outing. It wasn't great, but it was decent. The bullpen has been surprisingly good outside of one guy who they finally DFA'd and put him out of his misery this week, Dennis Santana. That was like the new Buck favorite because he played him like all the time. And every time the guy came in, he gave up a run. You know, it was like the Robert Gazelman of Mets history.
Managers do that shit all the time. Fans always know before the managers, apparently. It's crazy.
It drives me nuts. I'm like, every time I look at the box score, I see freaking Dennis Santana in a game. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's not that good. Like, what are you playing him so much for? Like last year, you know what drove me nuts about Buck? And I love having Buck as a manager. He would pitch Adam Ottavino, who at the time was a big part of the back end of your bullpen. He would pitch him in a game where the Mets were winning like 10-1.
Got to win that game, Craig.
I'm like, what are you doing? Are you that afraid of a 9-run comeback?
Yeah.
And I was like, why don't you just throw Diaz out there while you're at it? I mean, like, I get you want to win, but it's like, holy shit.
Ever since he didn't put his closer in when he was the Baltimore manager, he's just like throwing all.
I think you and I argued about that. We argued about that, I think, on when we did polar opposites way back when. It was against the Blue Jays, right? When Bautista hit the home run or something, and like we were like, oh, you should have put Zach Britton in or something, and you were like, oh, fuck no, like why is he going to put him in for? It doesn't make any sense. And we went back and forth on that.
On the road, you don't use your closer in a tie on the road because your closer is going to get a chance to get the save. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's
but overall, listen, I've been outside of the series sweep in Milwaukee, which was a gut punch in a way. I've been pretty pleased with how the Mets are playing ball right now. I don't have too many issues. I'm glad Beatty's up. I think that, hopefully we get Verlander back in the next week or so. And that's it. I've been really happy with the way Lindor's starting to come out of it. Had a huge game on Friday with 7 RBIs, and he had another good game yesterday. So hopefully he's starting to snap out of it. Alonso has been on a tear to start the season. Right. I would just like to see guys like McNeil, hit a little bit better. I'm getting a bit frustrated, and we might have talked about this before the season started about the DH situation with Vogelback. He's been really off to, in my opinion, a bad start, like terrible start. So I'm hoping that maybe a guy, if they decide to bring up Mark Vientos soon as another guy, and I think Alvarez should be playing every day until Narvaez comes back. I think that Francisco Alvarez should be playing every day. Well, because the more reps he gets, the more comfortable he'll be.
They listen, it drives me nuts, man. Like, the Yankees would stand on the IL and they bring up Peraza, thank God. But I'm fucking still watching? Stupid fucking Aaron Hicks is still hitting.
It's funny. My wife's cousins are the same exact thing.
Striking out on everything. And every time he strikes out, he slams his helmet down like he's real upset. And I'm like, dude, you are bad. The only time I want to see Aaron Hicks is in the 9th inning of a game we're winning 10-0. That's it.
Like, and it's funny. My wife's cousin had to say that he's tired of Hicks. He's done.
I'm tired of it. Play Franchi Cordero every day. I don't care. I honestly don't care. Like, play Peraza, play Cordero. Don't play Aaron Hicks. You do not need to play Aaron Hicks. You should never have to play Aaron Hicks. If you have to play Aaron Hicks, it means something bad has happened. But both the Mets and the Yankees are 9-6. They're both a couple games out of first place. I mean, think about it. The Rays started 13-2. The Braves started 14-4, and the Yankees and Mets are still less than 5 games out. So that's not bad.
See, the funny thing is that, and I told you this before, I was like, oh, listen, I got to just say something about the Oakland A's.
Please.
Okay? I get it. There are teams that are bad. And I know there are teams that maybe, like, you look at a team like, for example, the Baltimore Orioles, and the Orioles are going to be a bad team for a few years because the GM walked in there and said, we have to rebuild this farm system. This farm system has been brutal for too long. This team has spent way too much money on crappy players, on crappy veterans. And it was a process. Mm-hmm. And maybe by the second year, you start to second guess that process a little bit because you're like, okay, where the hell are they going? And they're going nowhere. Right. But now you're starting to see the fruits of the labor of what the Orioles are putting together, because a lot of their young players are doing really well. Adley Rutschman is one of the best hitters right now in the league. Yep. Cedric Mullins is a great center fielder. Santander gives you at least 25, 30 home runs. If they get this kid Gunnar Henderson going, he's going to be a huge part of their offense. Mateo has been a great picker. Wasn't Mateo a former Yankee? Wasn't that the guy they traded Stanton for? They got Stanton for?
Yeah, I think he was in that deal.
Fizzled out in Miami, but went to Baltimore, and now he's actually like he's a solid player. You start to see that. You just wish maybe at this point Baltimore would spend a little bit more money maybe on starting pitching or for the rotation, or, just trying to figure out a way to build a stronger rotation, because that's what you're going to ultimately need if you really, really, really want to compete in the East. With the Blue Jays, the Yankees, all those teams, you're going to really need a strong rotation. But then I look at teams like the Oakland A's, and, Moneyball seems like a blip on the radar 20 years ago with the whole, and you're watching them and it's just like, what is the end game with the Oakland A's? Is it remind you, and again, hate to use a major league reference, but remember how
this is your third one. I
know. And I can't help it, because this is the first thing I thought of when I watched Oakland, and I watched 30 people give a standing ovation to Mark Canha for being in Oakland, right? And I was watching the other day, and Gary, I love the SNY announcers. They're freaking great. And like he goes, oh, and Mark Canha getting an ovation, and there's like 40 people in the stands, like, and whatever. And then I'm asking myself, like, is the end game similar to Rachel Phelps, the owner of the Indians in Major League, where it's so bad that they have a loophole in their lease where they can get out of it to go to a new stadium somewhere else? It's one thing when you're just a bad team. And it's another thing when you're a rebuilding team, like the way the Orioles were for the past couple of years. But the Oakland A's are not even trying. Like, they're not even trying.
No.
And the deals they made have been freaking brutal. The trade the guy they got from the Yankees for, it might have been Sonny Gray. Was it James Caprillion? Was that the guy?
Yeah.
Okay. He was awful on Friday. Just awful. 7 walks. Awful. Okay. The guys they got in the Frankie Montez trade, awful. Like, just flat out awful.
I mean, Montez has been hurt. He came to his hurt, so I'm glad.
I know, but at the time he was good pitcher in Oakland, and then you're just watching the team, and I don't know who half the guys are on the roster. The rotation is terrible. This poor guy who pitched yesterday against the Mets, Fujinami, who actually pitched really well, gave up the 2-run homer, or gave up the tying homer to, I think it was Alonso. No, it was Canha, right? Gave up the tying homer to Canha, and then Kotze leaves him in the game, and then he gives up and then he just fell apart after that home run. It's so bad, and they're not even trying to make the roster marginally better. And if you're a fucking owner of this team, how can you possibly sit there and watch this crap every single day? Wow. It's I don't know if it's something like, remember how Major League Baseball stepped in years ago for the Washington Nationals because they were just so poorly run as an organization? Like, is this what Major League Baseball is going to have to do? Are they even able to do it at this point? Because this roster is just simply not competitive at all.
See, I think it's more along the lines of what you were talking about the first time, where they want to move so badly that they're willing to just basically be so bad that Oakland's just like, gets to get the hell out of here. And then they'll move to Vegas. They'll follow the Raiders and move to Vegas, hopefully. You know what I mean? And that's where they'll end up. And then we'll add 2 more expansion teams, maybe Nashville and Portland, and we'll go from there. But look, and I'm going to say this, and this may not be popular, but Moneyball's bullshit. What has Moneyball ever won? Moneyball never won nothing, my friends. Nothing.
It was a nice idea. It was a nice idea for a team that couldn't afford to hang with the big dogs, but you just see the cracks in the foundation of it, because you're going to need those superstars.
There's only one place where Moneyball works, and it still hasn't brought in a championship, and that's Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. If all the teams that didn't have any money ran their teams like Tampa Bay, the league would be in amazing shape right now, because Tampa Bay does. Nobody's been able to explain to me how Tampa does it year in and year out. Nobody's been able to explain it to me. I don't know if I don't know if they're just witches, magicians. I don't know, but they do something where they get the most out of every player that comes through that system, no matter what, no matter who they draft, that guy becomes good. It's crazy. And they're the only team that can do that.
But I'm just like, and look, I'm happy the Mets won the series with the A's this weekend, but it was like, was it really much of a competition? Like, especially that Friday game, I sat there and I was like, listen, I'm happy the Mets won the game, because it would have been embarrassing if they would have lost. But it was like watching the A's and like walking the 17 walks on Friday by A's pitching. And one of those guys was Jeurys Familia, by the way.
This team will have the most losses probably in the history of the game. more than the Astros of like 7 years ago, whatever it was.
And even the funny part was even yesterday when I was watching the Mets highlights, who gives up the game-winning hit? Trevor May. So it's like a former Mets reliever. I was like, geez, I was like, my goodness gracious, this is just horrible. Like,
all right, let's click over to football a little bit. We got just a couple things real quick. OBJ signs with the Ravens. You got Lamar Jackson acting like he's going to play for the Ravens this year now that OBJ signed, but he's yet to still sign the offer and he's yet to get a deal done with them. And
there's apparently a report earlier this week. I don't know if it was Peter King or not who said it, but that Lamar told the Ravens, and again, you take it for what it is because I don't know what's true or not anymore. Right. And to be honest, a lot of beat writers have lost credibility, I think. When John Heyman erroneously reported Aaron Judge signing to the San Francisco Giants, nobody trusted John Heyman again. Adam Schefter kind of doing the same thing, I think, a few weeks ago.
He said Arson Judge was going to sign with the Giants. So he wasn't wrong. Aaron Judge didn't sign with the Giants. Arson Judge still might.
So now apparently Lamar told the Ravens that he wants them to sign Odell and trade for DeAndre Hopkins, and then, quote, we'll talk about signing a deal. Now, when I found out that they had signed Odell, my first thought was, I have to think a deal with Lamar is close. Because I don't think the Ravens would have automatically given Odell like the 1-year deal like that if they didn't think that a deal with Lamar was getting there. Like they were making progress, basically.
See, I think the deal is getting done because Odell signed there. Odell doesn't sign there unless he knows Lamar is going to be his quarterback, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
but now, and I mean, I think there were two things there. Number one, that, but number two, I think the money. I think the fact that he got $15 million guaranteed in a deal that could get him up to $18 million.
Right.
And he's going to be wide receiver 1 there, which I think is what he also wanted.
Right.
So for Odell, it's a great deal for him. Like, I think it's you take that deal, you don't think twice. The Jets weren't going to give him that kind of money. We already knew that. But at the end of the day, like you said, and I think that a deal with Lamar has got to be close then. Because the Ravens have no other options right now at this point. They're not going after.
But also Lamar has no other options because nobody's trading 2 first-round picks.
No.
And then signing him to all that money. Like nobody's doing that. So both teams are kind of boned at this point. Yeah.
So they need each other. Now, I still think the Ravens need to do more wide receiver, but getting Odell is a huge, I think it's a good move for them. However, again, I just don't know what Odell is right now because that's my only concern.
Yeah. It's 2 knee injuries, right?
Yeah.
For a guy who relies on speed and agility.
And so that could be, and you could be relying too much on Odell, which is why you need to get him more.
I do think it was smart, and I do think it was better that he didn't play at all last year. Like he didn't come back for the last couple games. I thought that was smart. Give him a full year. So it's been a year and change since he'll have played football. But I think for wide receiver, it's a little easier to step in than say quarterback or something like that. So,
but I also think for him, he'll be 100% healthy.
Yes, exactly.
You don't have to worry about, his knee is going to be very strong now because he's been probably rehabbing and working out throughout that entire year.
Right.
And everything. So I think the Ravens will get a 100% Odell Beckham Jr.
I do too. And I listen, I think it'll be great for them. And I think when you have a guy like Odell, if he is healthy, he basically bumps up your other receivers as well, because all of a sudden your number 1 becomes a number 2 and he's going up against the second best cornerback on the other team and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden you get one more receiver. Like if they do go get DeAndre Hopkins, then that sets up a very big offense. Like if you ever had 2 wide receivers like Hopkins and Odell, forget about where they are in their careers, but you add into that Lamar's ability to scramble, like guys are going to be open all over the place, man. He's just got to hit him with the ball. It could be crazy.
And at that point, it becomes now it's about Lamar.
Yeah.
Now he has to be the one. If they find a way to trade for DeAndre Hopkins and they have Beckham to go with Mark Andrews, that's a pretty solid receiving group right there.
Yeah.
So now the burden is going to be on Lamar to make it happen and make everybody happy.
All right. We're going to talk real quick about the Jets because we talked about this to death, but there were reports that came out that we're in a stalemate. They're in a stalemate. And apparently the stalemate involves the first round pick for next year, not this year. And this, I'm just going to say this because I saw like my head explodes when I see Jet fans being like, it better be conditional. It better be conditional. It better be conditional.
See, but like,
motherfuckers, you have not had a fucking quarterback in your entire history of your stupid fucking goddamn stupid freaking franchise. And
that's
so
not true.
now you're going to go get Snow. Don't tell me
That's
Joe
not
Namath.
true.
Stop it.
Joe
Joe
Namath
Namath sucks.
Joe Namath.
Joe
Namath.
Joe
Joe
Namath won a
Namath.
game, but he's not a great quarterback. Stop.
Doesn't matter. He
not
won
great.
a Super Bowl.
It doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? He won a Super Bowl.
But he's like
Joe Namath.
The Super Bowl for
don't you know he's bigger than Jesus?
But he's like,
you had no idea?
The dude who won for the Ravens. What's his name? Trent Dilfer. He's like Trent Dilfer.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
He's a better quarterback, actually, than Joe Namath. That's beside the point. Here's the thing. Whatever they want, give it. You have a GM who is very, very good at drafting in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round. Very good at doing that. If you give up one first-round pick to get Aaron Rodgers, even for 1 year, this is why your team never wins. You guys have gotten so used to these draft picks and so like you need them. It's like a drug.
But that's what I argue with. I used to argue with. Listen.
Stop.
Okay. Number one, I don't necessarily have an issue with them looking for protections. You got to try at least to see. Remember, you could easily just say, okay, we'll give you whatever you want. But that also, to me, is not great general manager work. You have to at least try to get what you want out of the deal. And if you feel like it's a concession on a first-round pick, I can't fault the Jets for at least trying to do it. But whatever it is, don't let this hold it up either. That's my thing. Because you know what this felt like to me? And I was watching this morning on Netflix. Remember the standoff at Waco?
Oh, yeah.
Right? With David Koresh?
Yeah.
Now, I was watching it this morning. It was a 53-day standoff. I don't know how long this Aaron Rodgers shit's been going on, but I think it's more than 53. It's either getting close or it's over 53 days. So I'm like watching the Waco thing, and I'm like, this is like fucking. It's like almost the way it's like fucking Aaron Rodgers. Like this. Again, Packer fans think they have all the leverage. Jet fans think this. I don't think either team has any leverage. I think that both teams have to get a deal done, though. It's imperative for both teams. There is no other team coming in to save the day. Regardless of what freaking Craig Carton will tell you. There is no other team coming in to save the day, because if they did, they'd already be here by now. That's it. Now, that doesn't mean that the Jets should be like, okay, well, we'll just give you a 5th round pick because we're the only team that's in it. No, not that at all. Now, you've heard me say a few times on the show, I have no issue giving up 13. None. Zero. You know why? Because I'm a Jet fan and I'm sick and tired of fucking losing.
But Craig, you don't even have to give up 13. If Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback next year, they want the first round pick next year, which if Aaron Rodgers is on your team, right? But if Aaron Rodgers,
if you can listen, if you can get a concession,
it's going to be high 20s.
If you can get a concession, for it, fine. Okay. Just try. Worst case scenario is the Packers are just like, no.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, it's frustrating for me. And here's what's so crazy about it. This is going to drag on until the draft. I think you and I can both agree.
Probably.
It's going to go all the way to the draft. Okay. I don't know what the end deal is going to be at the end of it. I just don't know. I don't think it's going to be 13, but who knows?
No. That's the thing, is that
I know. I know.
But that's the other part that makes my head hurt. You get to keep the high first round pick. You get to keep 13. If Aaron Rodgers is on the team and he stays healthy, we can all agree, right? The Jets are going to win 10, 12 games, and their draft pick next year is going to be 24 to 32, whatever it is.
It's
right?
going to be in the 20s. Like, I don't, and I think that and the thing is also, I think that Aaron Rodgers will, if the Jets can get an offensive lineman at 13, which is what a lot of the draft mocks have been seeing and reading and hearing, then I think that only benefits them more. I don't think they'll have to give up both second round picks this year. I think they'll just give up one, probably 42, because it's the higher of the two. And
also Aaron Rodgers is, if the only way Aaron Rodgers retires after next year is if they win the Super Bowl. And then if they win the Super Bowl, who gives a crap about the first round pick?
But I will, and again, Maddie, you're preaching to the choir on this one.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
Like, you're preaching to the choir, because here's the way I look at it.
Look at the Rams.
Yeah,
look at the Dolphins.
Here's the way I look at it. It's very simple. Okay. Aaron Rodgers becomes the best quarterback you've ever had in probably in franchise history. I love Namath, but come
Not
on,
even close.
it's Aaron freaking Rodgers. What I love about Packer fans are funny though, and I've been watching this on like unfold on Twitter, and Packer fans are just like, I don't know if it's just out of spite. I don't know if it's just this own the libs mentality that they run with on Twitter, but it's like this thing where there were multiple Packer fans on Twitter basically saying, I would rather trade Rodgers to another team for like a day 3 pick than trade him to the Jets and get more. And I didn't understand like why you would do that. Like to me, it's just like it doesn't make like. And again, I don't want to respond to it because it's just like taking the bait.
You think that's like goes back to the Favre thing? Like that wasn't a bad trade for them, was it?
Favre was a 4th round pick. They wound up giving up a 4th round pick because Favre really wanted to play and he didn't want to play for Green Bay. There was no other teams involved, and it was in August. It was right before the season started.
Right.
Too. So there's that. The thing is right now is as a Jet fan, I'm tired of losing these games by just some bullshit. Like it's always some bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of losing these games. Having a guy like Aaron Rodgers and like Packer fans are always Packer beat writers too are just as bad.
Oh yeah.
Because they're trying to be like, well, you know, he was ranked 20th and some random stat they just pull out of their ass.
Oh,
and I'm like,
does that shit.
He's Aaron fucking Rodgers. He is a Super Bowl MVP. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won you a ring. 4-time NFL MVP. He's taken the Packers to the NFC Championship game multiple times. Like, I don't fucking understand. All of a sudden, you're like kicking this guy while he's down just because he is who he is as a personality.
That's what they do, though. That's what they all do. They all do that crap. But
not for nothing, Green Bay also not exactly an endearing endorsement of freaking Jordan Love a week ago, where they basically said they don't think they don't know. Temper your expectations was exactly what Matt LaFleur said when they asked him about Jordan Love.
Well, they should temper their expectations because if Jordan Love was really that good, they would have gotten rid of Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago.
And one of the Packer beat writers is putting video up of a preseason game that Jordan Love played where he throws 2 really nice passes and he goes, oh yeah, quarterbacks just don't make those plays. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me with this? Listen, I was like, a year ago, you loved Aaron Rodgers. Now all of a sudden he's the freaking Antichrist.
Craig, it's a spoiled town. Since 1993, they've had 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but
like that's crazy, right?
It is. It's and I don't disagree.
2 quarterbacks, like fuck that shit.
Now, the way I look at it is this: the Packers don't want to not get at least a pick in this draft. That's how I kind of look at it too. You need to get at least a pick in this draft so you can get Jordan Love help. Yeah, because that's the end game.
And the first pick next year.
Okay.
If the Packers will agree to a condition, that's fine. But the thing is to me is like, how can you like? Again, the only way to me Aaron Rodgers retires after this year because the contract he's going to get is going to be ludicrous, right? So the only way he retires at the end of this year is if they win the Super Bowl. And if you're a Jet fan, you would make that trade every day of the week.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I think I said it last week that I think the way the team is built right now with the signing of Alan Lazard and a few other additions, I think it's a 2-year window.
Yeah. I
really believe I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to play 1 year and not play next year.
It's dumb.
I don't see it. I just don't see that possibility. I think I would be very surprised if Aaron Rodgers retired after 1 year.
They're going to get Aaron Rodgers for less than the Vikings got for the wide receiver. I'm forgetting his name.
Randy Moss.
Bills. No, the Bills.
Oh, Stephon Diggs.
And they're going to get less. They're going to get less. The Packers are going to get less than the Dolphins gave up for Tyreek Hill. Like, come on, man.
It's
like, stop.
Again, Matt, like you're preaching to the choir. You know me, man. I'm a realistic Jet fan all the way.
Makes my head hurt.
And my attitude is like, listen, I don't have a problem with you trying to get a concession on the pick. I have no problem with you trying. But if it's going to hold up the deal, just make the fucking deal and be done with it. Yeah. If the Packer fans are going to have an erection over a 24 first-round pick, then they're idiots too, because that's not for another year.
Agreed.
Not for another year.
And that's why you give it.
So like I said, at the end of the day, you and I both know this is going to the draft. It's going down to the draft. And it'll be funny if it goes down to day 2 of the draft.
Right.
I'm not even talking day 1. We're talking like day 2. The Jets are picking at 42.
Well, it's
Are we
a
going to see that
pick, right?
Packers logo? Are we going to see that Packers logo in the bottom left corner of the draft ticker? Or are we going to? Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, honestly, as a Jet fan, you should just be like, get the deal done already. Get it done. Enough is enough. I don't want to keep dragging this out. I don't want to hear Aaron Rodgers telling the Jets, wait until next month. I don't want to hear that shit. I just want the deal done. Just get it done. That's it.
You're listening
All
to
right.
Polar Opposites. We are live on YouTube, on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at Polarapo, on Instagram at PolarOppoPod. Check us out. Check us out.
I will say one other thing before we get started.
Please.
This was a stressful day. I feel better now.
Yes, you got some of that shit off your chest.
I feel better now. I was definitely wound up a little bit just from the whole day in general.
Yeah, now you yell a little bit.
Now we're yelling and screaming, and now I feel better now.
Yeah.
So that's good. And
let's yell and scream some more.
now I hear my kids killing each other in the other room. So okay. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, get all that energy out. Here's a little closing time.
Jesus. The problem with wearing earbuds.
Yeah.
In case you missed it, as always, closes out our show. Are we alternating, or am I just reading all 6?
Oh, I got him.
Oh, you got him? Okay. We have 6 topics for in case you missed it to close out Polar Opposites. All opinions legal. All opinions vary. Do all opinions matter?
No, never.
Okay. All right, Maddie, are you ready? All right, number 1. Bill Belichick is reportedly shopping quarterback Mac Jones as the Patriots coach is upset with Jones for seeking offensive advice from coaches outside of the organization. Jones struggled at times last year, and that may have had more to do with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge splitting the offensive coordinator position than the play at QB. Jones was apparently not the only one frustrated with the offensive system from last season, as backup Brian Hoyer also voiced his frustrations, which ultimately led to him being released. Patricia and Judge are no longer part of the offensive game plan, with the team hiring former Texans head coach Bill O'Brien as OC for the upcoming season. Maddie, is this about seeking outside advice, or does Belichick not believe in Jones?
It can be both, right? I think it's kind of both, right? He thought, like, listen, Mac Jones fell to them at 16 or 15 that year, whatever it was, and they took him because there was nobody else left to take. But I'm sorry, if you're Mac Jones and you don't go outside for offensive help when stupid Matt Patricia and stupid Joe Judge are your offensive coaches, I would have your head examined, to be completely honest with you. So I think this is Bill sort of covering his tracks by saying, like, trying to make it seem like the pick wasn't a bad pick or he hasn't developed him properly, and more about he's going outside the system. But let's be honest, Mac Jones has not been great. Now, part of that has also been the coaching, but also Mac Jones has not been great. And Bill Belichick's just trying to cover his ass now. That's all.
I agree with you on Mac Jones. To be honest, Belichick's kind of act is getting a little tired. I mean, I think the players are just frustrated with it and everything. And, you know, he didn't have a good season last year, but I could also put that on the fact that Belichick hired a defensive coordinator to call offensive plays.
Yeah, agreed.
Which we don't even know what Matt Patricia was. Did he have any offensive experience in general, let alone,
also,
you know,
Patriots were like vying for a playoff spot until the last couple of weeks. It's not like they were like 1-17 or something, or 1-16.
And you never know if both Matt Patricia and Joe Judge had 2 different philosophies that were confusing the shit out of them. So that was another part of it too. I think it's tough to give up on Mac Jones after he's only been in the league for a couple of years. I think he has shown some good things, but it's very likely that the offense was holding him back a bit. And now maybe with a new voice like Bill O'Brien, who has offensive coordinator experience, whether it's at Alabama or
was O'Brien the offensive coordinator for Mac Jones? Was he in Alabama or is he still at the Texans?
He wasn't no, he was still with the Texans, I think, when he went there a year after Jones got drafted. So, but I think it can only help that Bill O'Brien is a new voice in New England. I think Belichick would be foolish to give up on Mac Jones right now unless he eyes a quarterback in the draft that he desperately wants.
All right, number 2, Cam Newton has not generated much interest since he threw at Auburn's pro day, but he has apparently provided a list of 9 quarterbacks he would accept being a backup role. Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Malik Willis, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Sam Howell. Does Cam Newton have the right to be picky about where he plays in 2023?
You always have the right to be picky, but for a guy who's trying to show off for teams at a pro day, I think you would probably take the first job that came your way as a backup quarterback. Cam Newton he's not going to be a starter by any stretch of the imagination. But at the end of the day, if a team really likes him and says, "Oh, we want you to back up our quarterback," take the job. Otherwise, to me, you're just being Colin Kaepernick, and you're just basically making up these pro days and throwing sessions just for attention. So if I'm Cam Newton, if you really, really want to be back in the league that bad, I take the first job that comes my way and just call it a day.
Did you actually hear the soundbite though? Did you actually hear the sound?
I didn't hear the soundbite. I just read it. I just read the article.
He basically, first of all, he said Deshaun Watson first. And then was like, he's a really good guy. And I'm like, wait, what? How would you want to say Deshaun Watson? Because the Deshaun Watson I know likes to whip out his dingus in front of massage therapists and whatnot.
Don't tell that to all the women he sexually assaulted. They're really committed to the lie.
Sometimes these guys talk, and I'm like, do you not understand how the world works? Listen, whatever, Cam, take whatever job you can get, buddy. Please, just take whatever job you can get, because you're not getting a job right now. You're just not. Nobody wants you. It's just not in your cards. So whatever comes along, even if it's the worst team in the world, that's where you go.
And not for nothing, Cam Newton wasn't exactly super impressive at his pro day. No. So, all right. Number 3, Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer is reporting that the Hawks front office has the green light from ownership to do whatever it wants with the roster, which includes considering trade opportunities involving Trae Young. Trae is a dynamic player, but had issues with former coach Nate McMillan, who questioned Young's leadership. He signed a 5-year, $215 million extension with Atlanta last offseason, but after a surprising playoff run in 21, the Hawks have been underwhelming since, with a first-round exit last year and a trip to the play-in tournament this year where they advanced and will face the Celtics. Maddie, would you consider making a deal for Trae Young if he is indeed available?
I wouldn't. There are definitely teams that will. But I'll say this: if you're the Hawks right now, you gotta be killing yourself. You had Luka Doncic, you had him, and you traded him for Trae Young. You had him, and you traded him for Trae Young, who then in 4 years you're gonna trade away for somebody else, whoever that is. The problem with Trae Young is they change kind of the rules a little bit, right? So he doesn't get as many foul calls as he used to get, because it's, they changed that rule where you initiate contact, they're going to call it on you. They'll call it the Harden rule, whatever you want to call. And he's one of those guys that seems like he got his bag and he just didn't get better, right? John Morant is getting better as we go along, right? You see these young guys who are getting their money and they're getting better as they go along. Trae Young peaked 3 years ago and has gotten steadily worse over the last 2 years. So no, I wouldn't trade for him, but there's definitely going to be a team that does. Absolutely.
Teams will want him because he is a good player. He is a dynamic player. Contract be damned. So I'm on the fence about this one. The one thing that always bothers me about a player more than his ability is his attitude. Mm-hmm. And Trae Young is the kind of guy who could possibly crush a locker room. He is a guy that within a year, trading to another team could easily turn around and say, okay, I want out. And then I got to figure out a way to get rid of him, because then he's just going to be a bitch and he's not going to want to play, and he's going to fake some injury or just take a day off to go, because NBA players get personal days during the regular season. What's interesting about this story also is, which I didn't mention in here, is that a lot of the players seem to back Nate McMillan over Trae Young.
Yeah.
Because they really like Nate McMillan. And in the case of Trae Young, who is a star player against McMillan, they're probably going to side with the ownership's going to probably side with the player more than the coach.
Unfortunately, you have to.
It's the end. That's pretty much where we are with that. If I was a team, I would consider it, but I don't know if I'm prepared, especially from what I'm hearing and seeing. If I could break the bank and give them what the Hawks are going to want, which is it's going to be like the Rudy Gobert trade. It's going to be 5 first-round picks and multiple players. I don't think at this point, with the attitude, and teams are starting to get fed up with this shit too. I think that's another part of it.
Oh, it's crazy. That Rudy Gobert trade has ruined every trade going forward. It's absolutely crazy.
That is a big reason why the Nets couldn't trade Durant when he wanted to trade the man, because no team was coming close to matching that offer, and the Nets wisely decided to just kind of keep him and let him play the season until they traded him to Phoenix.
Just crazy. Number 4, the Mavericks were fined $750,000 for their decision to rest key players in an elimination game against the Bulls on April 7th. Kyrie Irving, Christian Wood, and Tim Hardaway Jr. were a few of the players who didn't play, while Luka only played the first half in a loss to the Chicago Bulls that eliminated them from the postseason play. The Mavs blew an 11-point lead, with some speculating they were trying to lose on purpose. but the league found no wrongdoing by the players who played in the game that the Bulls won by 3. Did the punishment fit the crime?
Man, I had a lot of time to think about this one because originally I was saying to myself, teams do this all the time because of the whole load management and all that stuff. But now that I think about it more and more, and now that I see which guys were benched, what the Mavericks did was really shady. It was really, really shady. And I know why they did it. They did it so they could try to keep their first round pick, which, by the way, I don't think is a guarantee because it has to land in the top 10 for the lottery. I don't think it automatically is a top 10 pick because they haven't done the lottery yet.
Yeah, it's top 10 protected. So if they get the 11th pick or something like that,
it goes to the Knicks.
Goes to the Knicks, yeah.
Yeah, so this could all backfire against you at this point because the whole point of this was to basically say, okay, we're giving up on the season, but we really want to keep that first round pick, and you may not be able to get it.
Yeah.
Because if the lottery falls not in your favor, it goes to the Knicks. So when I thought about it first, I was like, this just seems like another load management thing because we shit on teams all the time for benching Giannis in a game and benching this guy in a game and benching that guy in a game. And they seem to get away with stuff like that. But this seems more calculated. And it seems like it was part of a bigger plan. And to me, that is shady.
Well, look, it's different than the Knicks resting Jalen Brunson because they had already locked in their playoff position and they couldn't go up or down, right? It's different than that. Resting guys at the end of the year for a playoff run is different than benching guys to draft pick. If you don't want to give up the pick, don't trade the goddamn pick. But I'll say this too, and this is the other thing. Luka only played because there was the contingent from his home country there, doing business. So he felt like he had to play. So he only played 12 minutes. And that was the only reason. What the league should have done here is, I'm not saying they should have given the Knicks the pick, but they should not allow the Mavericks to keep the pick. Do something else with the pick. I don't know what they could do. I'm not saying give it to the Knicks. It's not what I'm saying. Now, if it drops out of the top 10, give it to the Knicks because that was the trade. But if it doesn't get out of the top 10, I don't think the Mavericks should be allowed to keep it. I don't. $750,000 for fucking Mark Cuban is nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. You might as well find him $1. That's essentially what you did, you stupid idiots.
All right, number 5. CJ McCollum may have taken a shot at Zion Williamson in his post-game comments after the Pelicans' 123-118 loss to the Thunder in the play-in tournament. CJ said, quote, "We've got to do what we need to do off the court in terms of preparation, in terms of getting treatment, in terms of getting the right sleep, the right type of hydration, and having the right type of diet." Williamson was asked about his rehab process, and he said he was able to do pretty much everything on the court, but he was not satisfied with the level of his performance enough to return to action or play in games. Maddie, would these injuries magically disappear if Zion Williamson was on another team?
I like to say that Zion has pelicanitis, which affects different parts of his body depending on how little he wants to play for the Pelicans that particular day. A hamstring injury that's not a tear and you're out since January is a lot. Zion will get traded and he'll go to a team and he'll probably play. And he'll probably play really well because he didn't want to play for the Pelicans. Never did. I mean, he wanted to go to New York. It seemed like back in the day. Remember when they asked him about it and he had that big smile on his face? It seemed like he wanted to go to New York. He ended up going to the Pelicans. And I think he's played 30% of the games since he's been on the team. And yes, CJ McCollum is not taking a slight swipe at him. He's taking a broadside swipe at him because who's the player on the team that needs a better diet? It's not Brandon Ingram. It's not CJ McCollum. It's Zion Williamson. So that is an absolute direct shot at him. But he's going to get traded. And listen, the Pelicans will make a mint on it because teams will line up. Even though Zion has an injury history, a lot of teams think that they can fix it and they'll try and get him to on their team because they know they can fix it. And I think there's a lot of teams that think that Zion is just like that because he doesn't want to play for the Pelicans.
I pretty much agree with you there. What was kind of funny was the video that they showed of Zion warming up before the play-in game where he was dunking and he was being aggressive and everything. And then he has he tells everybody he's not Zion ready.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm not 100%. I'm only 90%.
And then has the nerve to sit there and get all pissed off at people who are ripping him on social media because, and whatever. Again, this is kind of like the Trae Young shit. It's it's ad nauseum now with these players. And these players are just basically, a lot of people are just basically saying, and they're not wrong in that he signed that deal knowing full well that's what he was going to get from the Pelicans because that was the team that drafted him. So he knew he could get the most money out of the Pelicans. And now that he has the contract he wants, now he's going to try to push for a trade because now, and he's going to go wherever he wants. This is the freaking problem with the NBA, unfortunately. And now it's the inmates are running the asylum. And basically the players are dictating where they want to go. The players are dictating where they want to be traded to. The owners are basically almost GMs for most of the teams now are by title only because they're not going to try to stand up to these guys and say, well, then, you're going to sit and everything like that. They're not going to do it because the minute Zion's healthy, they want him to play. But it's pretty obvious he doesn't want to be there because otherwise in a do or die game like that, he would have suited up. And even if you would have played more than even if you would have played like 20 minutes, let's say, just like a rough number of minutes, it would have provided a boost for your team. And you know what the crazy part is, Matt? They only lost by 5.
Oh, yeah. No, they win the game if he plays. They win the game.
McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and all the other. The Pelicans have a decent roster. He can be a difference maker. But again, his attitude, he doesn't want to be it for them. And we go back. And the thing is, he's going to push for a trade to – I'm just throwing random teams out. He's going to push for a team like the Knicks. He's going to try to push for a team like Golden State. Any team that's going to be in the playoff chase every year in a big city, that's where he's going to push to. And it's just, again, this is never going to change in the NBA. It's never going to change. And unfortunately, this is where the league is pretty much at right now with these young superstars. The minute it gets a little dicey, they want out. The minute they have to do a little bit more legwork, they want out. They don't want to be a part of it.
Number 6, Florida QB Anthony Richardson penned an open letter in the Players Tribune to all NFL GMs detailing because he is worth the risk of being selected as the team's first-round pick. He mentioned his upbringing, hard-working roots, and addressed his supposed shortcomings regarding his accuracy, saying that no one will ever work harder than him to improve. That seems crazy. Richardson's draft positioning is a bit all over the place, with some mocks having him selected in the top 5, while others have him selected towards the bottom of the top 10. Does a letter like this help or hinder the organization's opinion about Anthony Richardson?
I don't think it does anything. I think if you have an opinion on the kid, you already know what he is. You already know if he's any good. You already know if he's raw and needs a lot of coaching. You already have an assessment, especially so close to the draft. I don't think it does anything. And in a way, I think it kind of looks bad for Anthony Richardson because it almost has this feel of like, please draft me. I won't let you down ever, kind of like that. And he's at best the third quarterback taken in the draft because Stroud and Bryce Young will be 1 and 2. Then after that, it gets interesting. There are a lot of teams that like Will Levis out of Kentucky. There are a lot of guys who like Anthony Richardson. That's where his stock is all over the place. I commend his courage to kind of do stuff like that because I don't think any team, but you could also just say that out loud in an interview and say, you know what, man, I'm a really good player. I think you'd be a fool not to take me. But I don't necessarily think this late in the game, it's going to change anyone's opinion. And it could ultimately hurt his stock during the draft.
I agree with you that it does nothing, and that if it does anything, it hurts more than it helps. Because what you're doing is, like, everybody knows you have flaws as a player, but nobody ever wants to hear you talk about them. Does that make sense? Like, we want you to be humble and say, yeah, and there's things I need to work on. Like, everybody should say that crap, right? But, like, I don't want you to tell me what those things are. Like, because then you're just admitting to it, and then it just becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You come out and say, I might have some things to work on. Don't talk about accuracy. Talk about those things. We know what you need to work on. And can we stop, please? I'm so tired. I'll work harder than everybody. First one in the building, last one to leave. Guys, not everybody can be the first one in the building and the last one to leave. You know why? Because then you wouldn't be the first one in the building and the last to leave. You'd all be leaving together. So just stop, okay? And also, Anthony, like, your play is supposed to do the talking for you, not your little words in the Players Tribune. That's what I would have done. Maybe play a little bit better, and you don't have to worry about this crap. That's all I'm saying.
And that's what it is. And I think at the end of the day, I know what he was trying to do with this, but I don't think it did anything. And again, like you, I'm so sick and tired of hearing the last one in, first one in, last one to leave, because it doesn't matter if you're the last one to leave the office. Okay. I'm sometimes the last one to leave my office every day. Doesn't make me an elite like employee. It just makes me a good employee, and I work hard, and I don't have to sell myself too much, because more times than not, no matter how hard you work, you just might not get that promotion. And that's kind of like how I relate it to this. You could tell everybody all you want about how you work hard, but at the end of the day, if you're not able to complete simple passes, if you're not able to read an offense, it's not going to matter how hard you work, because at the end of the day, your shortcomings are still going to be your shortcomings.
Indeed.
In case you missed it, is officially over, and this episode of Polar Opposites is over. And we'd like to thank everybody for checking us out, whether on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, everywhere else. You can get your podcast by all means. Instagram at PolarOppoPod, Twitter at PolarOppo. Getting better. Good. So, we are just about a little bit over a week until the draft, so we'll be getting into some more draft stuff next week. We'll get into some more playoff stuff with the NBA. We'll get into some more baseball stuff, and anything else that we can try to fit into this show. So again, on behalf of Matt, this is Craig. This has been the Polar Opposites. We'd like to thank you for watching wherever you are. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of the week. Enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy everything else. And we'll be back next week. I got nothing. Go ahead.
Bye.